My name is Clara, and this is my story. I live in a small town called Brighton Bay, a quiet place by the sea. Life was simple. Some would call it boring, but I liked the peace. I worked as a receptionist at a small hotel, had a tiny apartment, and a few friends. After a few painful relationships, I told myself love was not for me anymore. It was easier to stay alone than to break again, but life has a strange way of surprising us when we least expect it. One evening, my friend Lena invited me to a small gathering at a seaside cafe. I didn't want to go, but she convinced me. The cafe was warm, filled with laughter, music, and the smell of coffee. That's where I first met Ethan. Calm, polite, and a little different from the rest. When Lena introduced us, he smiled and said, "Hi, I'm Ethan." I answered softly, "Clara." Something about him felt different, almost comforting. While others talked loudly, he simply listened, quietly watching. After that evening, we began meeting more often, sometimes with Lena, sometimes just the two of us. We talked about books, dreams, and the small joys of life. One night under the starlit sky, we sat by the sea. The waves were gentle, the silence deep, and then he whispered, "Being with you feels like peace." Those words sank into my heart, and that night I realized I was falling for him. For the first time in years, I felt love returning, but the truth has a way of breaking even the strongest illusions. One evening, Ethan's face turned serious as he looked at me. "Clara," he said quietly, "I'm married. I have 2 children." The world froze. My heart turned cold as his words echoed in my mind. He quickly added, "It's not love anymore." "We stay only for the kids," tears filled my eyes. I walked out into the night, my heart breaking with every step. But despite the pain, I couldn't let him go. He texted, "Clara, I miss you. Please forgive me." At first, I ignored him, but my heart betrayed me. Soon I gave in, and so began our secret. He visited once or twice a month, always in the same small house. We cooked dinner, watched movies, shared laughter, and quiet nights. Inside those walls, it felt like love, but only there. Outside, I didn't exist in his world. No photos, no promises, no future. Just stolen moments. I was nothing more than a shadow in his life. Slowly, I began to change. I stopped meeting friends, stopped reading, stopped living. I only waited for his messages, for his visits. But with every visit, I felt emptier. I noticed he never left a trace behind, not even a toothbrush. It was like he never lived there at all. My friend Lena saw my pain. She said, "Clara, you're losing yourself. You deserve more." Her words struck me harder than I expected. That night, I looked in the mirror. I didn't recognize myself anymore. I was just waiting, fading, disappearing. One evening, Ethan came with flowers and a smile, but I was too tired, too broken to pretend anymore. "Ethan," I whispered, "I don't know if I can do this." He looked at me, desperate. "Clara, I love you. You know that." "Then choose me," I said, my voice shaking. He turned away. "It's not that easy. I have children, a family." "And what am I?" I asked, tears streaming down. "Just a secret?" He had no answer. That silence was louder than any truth, and I knew in that moment it was over. I cried that night, but this time I understood. He would never leave, not for me, not for anyone. And I couldn't live like this anymore. I stopped answering his calls. I stopped waiting and started living again. I walked by the sea, read books, met friends, and wrote in my notebook. Every word I wrote healed me a little more. Every step I took brought me back to myself. And slowly, the pain began to fade. Months passed, and life began to feel lighter. One day, after my writing class, I stopped at a bookstore. There, a man smiled at me and said, "You're in the writing class, right?" "I'm Adam." We talked about books, about travel, about little things. His voice was calm, his presence kind, and for the first time in a long time, I felt safe. The next week, he sat near me in class. Afterward, we shared coffee, laughing over simple things. He didn't rush me, didn't ask questions I wasn't ready to answer. One evening by the beach, I finally confessed. I was in a relationship before. He was married. I was always second. I can't do that again. Adam looked at me gently and said, "You deserve better. And I'll never make you feel hidden." His words wrapped around me like warmth in the cold. With him, I felt seen, not judged, not pitied, just understood. And slowly, my heart began to trust again. Weeks turned into months. I laughed freely, lived fully, and felt alive again. When I looked in the mirror, I saw Clara, strong and whole. Adam became part of my life like sunlight after a storm. He didn't try to fix me. He just walked beside me. And for the first time, I realized what love truly meant. Love doesn't have to hurt. It doesn't have to hide. Love should feel safe. Love should feel like home. Looking back, I don't regret my past. It taught me love without respect is never enough. It taught me not to wait for someone who won't choose me. Now I have peace, I have hope, and I have love. Not from someone who hides me, but from someone who proudly walks beside me.